Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode. It is the end of a very, very rainy Tuesday, the 13th of January 26. And it has rained all day today. Super tedious. So I did a very quick reel up at the field this morning, and I said I was going to do my crop planning today, which is what I'm going to talk to you about this evening. But let's get some exciting news out of the way first of all. I have found those missing cream eggs. Cannot tell you how excited I was to actually find them. And they were hidden inside a box of biscuits, which is crafty of me. So I have just eaten them. So that problem is now out of the way, because I had a feeling that they're just going to be tricky little things and that I would constantly be losing them and finding them between now and Easter. So I thought just eat the whole lot, and then that problem is out of the way. Now I have a couple of new problems which I'm going to share with you. One of which is that the handle of my door is no longer working from the inside. And this happened the other day as soon as I arrived at the plot. So I had to climb over the driver's seat, over the console, and get into the passenger side and exit the door that way, which was so difficult because it was a really, really cold day the other day. And I had put far too many bulky layers on, which is a really silly mistake. So it took me absolutely ages to climb out because it was like I was just like an enormous sausage in the car. And then I got out and I realized, I don't know why I didn't just put the window down and open the door from the outside. So that is the technique that I have to employ everywhere I go at the moment. And I hadn't realized how many times I got in and out of the car. So yes, that is me. Not a good look, and I need to get that fixed urgently. And also, I had an email from my doctor this morning, which is quite unusual because they don't normally contact you at all. So I guessed it was going to be something important. And my testosterone levels are way too high. So I think I may have misjudged what is half a pump in the mornings. And I have been putting on a little bit too much, which could explain why I have been feeling so fired up over the last couple of months and just ploughing on with absolutely everything and super confident and feeling very gung-ho about everything. So I have to reduce that level very swiftly and do it properly, so that I don't start speaking with a very low voice and hair starts sprouting out of all sorts of weird places. So got to sort that out. I hope it doesn't slow me down at all, this reduction in dose, because it has been pretty awesome. I've got an awful lot done. It's also Tartiflette month. I have nominated January the month of doing Tartiflette. Now, you may know this, that I like to cook in batches and eat the same thing for a sustained period of time, just because it's one less decision to have to make in the day. So I got this fantastic Tartiflette recipe from ChatGPT, and the first one was pretty much how it's supposed to be, only they didn't have exactly the right cheese, so I had to use a substitute cheese on the first one. And then that cost like an arm and a leg. And so since then, I'm not using the right cheeses at all. So the last one just had slices of brie on the top, which is basically not a tartiflette at all. It's basically just potatoes and cream with some melted brie on the top, and not the right thing at all. But it has been very nice, only it's going to be absolutely deadly for what's left of my waistline. So I'm going to have to come up with another batch meal. Right, so tonight's episode, all about crop planning. I thought this would be a really straightforward thing to do, and that I would just do it all in about an hour and then be able to talk to you about it. And the fact that I'm recording this at 10:30 at night probably indicates that I wildly underestimated how long it would actually take me. And it's one of those jobs where I came home and I was just literally absolutely ready to start it. And then I thought, well, I'll just do a bit of a list of all of the things that I want to grow in 2026. And so I made a spreadsheet, which didn't take very long at all. And I had columns for everything that I wanted to grow, what I still needed to buy, And where are we? I'm just looking at it now, the type of plant it is. And then I suddenly thought, this list is far too big. Like, this is absolutely wild. I ended up having something like 27 different annuals. Then there's the biennials, of which there's only one actually, two different lots of bulbs, which is the tulips and the alliums, another 26 perennials, 5 shrubs, 2 trees, and a couple of grasses. Oh, and 10 foliage plants as well. And I thought, this can't be right, because I am supposed to be having a different year, 2026. I am supposed to be having far fewer annuals, more perennials, and more reliance on the shrubs like the roses and the hydrangeas. So I've put roses in the shrub category. And I looked at this list and I thought, I can't possibly have 27 annuals. This is not right at all. And what I've learnt on my 6-figure flower farming course about growing the most profitable crops and obviously limiting the number of crops that I do was absolutely not being reflected back in the data in front of me. And what those numbers kind of showed me, that there's a real lack of discipline somewhere going along there, and also lack of focus and no prioritization of most profitable crops, far too much breadth and not enough depth, and totally ignores the fact that I wanted to reduce the volume of annuals to cut the workload and lower the cost of production and all the babysitting that goes along with the seedlings. So there's time spent faffing about sowing them, hardening them off, transplanting them, soil prep, planting them out. And so I had to actually completely revise the list, taking into account all my gross profit margins from last year and revenues and how much time I spent on everything last year, and just really chop through things and get that list in a much better order, and also mark down which were going to be my star plants of this year, which are the ones that I really wanted to focus on and be like my flagship products, I guess. So I have managed to whittle the list down now to 12 annuals and 1 grass. I would like to do more grasses, but the Breezer Maxima I did last year, either the rats or the mice ate them on the precise day that they were fit for cutting. So given that I can't really protect those guys, because if it was the rats, and I think it was because I did see them in the veg area, there's nothing that I can do about protecting anything from them, because unless something is in a metal bin or surrounded by steel, the rats will just get in and eat anything anyway. So I thought, well, I'll just do 1 grass, which is the what was the grass I was going to do? I did want to tell you this one. It's the panicum frosted explosions. That was it, frosted explosion, which I think is nice, and I don't think they'll want to eat that, although you never can tell with rats. So that is what I actually spent hours and hours on today, refining this list and being absolutely ruthless and cutting out lots of the annuals, which I thought I would do. And actually, on reflection, I really can't be doing those. So I feel like I've got to a good place, and now I actually do need to do the proper crop plan and succession plan for these 12 annuals. But it does feel an awful lot more of an achievable goal to just have to do that for the 12. And so what I thought I would be talking about today is these actual plans. And I was going to do 1 crop at a time and work out all of the starting dates, seed sowing, crop succession sowing dates, and share all of that information. And I haven't got round to doing that because it's just taken me so long to sort out the spreadsheet for the list that I do have. So I thought I would tell you which annuals I'm going to do this year. Actually, where's the list? Okay, so I've got Amy on the list again. Did really badly with that in 2012. They were tiny, tiny, short little things, very, very pretty and lovely for bud vases, but absolutely not the sort of 4 foot tall cloud of white that I was expecting. but I refuse to be defeated. So I'm doing those again. And snaps. I've got snaps in there. They were lovely. And I have bought some. I've got some very pretty colours in here. I think I've just where have I got? Oh yes, I've got Admiral White and Madame Butterfly, plus some bits and pieces that I've got left over from last year. Right, what's next on the list? Here we go. Cosmos. This is supposed to be, or this is rather, one of the star plants. I've bought some very, very pretty varieties this year. I've got some double Dutch rose, double click rose, and double click snow puff. Now, the Craspedia, they are definitely back on the list. I just absolutely love those. They were my little golf balls on sticks, and they were just gorgeous, and my wedding event florist loved them. So they are on the list as a style plant as well. I've added Didiscus back onto the list. Definitely got to be doing those again. And Orlia, obviously, is on the list. And I say obviously because they were absolute diamonds last year. I just loved growing them. They were so beautiful and sold really, really well. So they are also a star plant. And then I've also got Scabious, which I did this year, and I found a really nice one to do next year. It's a group, actually, a collection, if you like, called Fondant Fancies, of just sort of pastely shades rather than the blue and the whites that I did this year. They were lovely plants, and I think the fondanty apricotty peachy shades will be really, really nice. And then I've got a poppy here. I've got Lauren's Grape. Now, I've had this packet sculling for about a year. Didn't get around to sewing them last year, and I don't know why, because it could have just been so simple. Empty packet, direct sew, do it, even though that's not my preferred way of doing it. The volume, excuse me, the volume that you get in the packets means that I could have just literally lobbed the whole thing out and seen what happens. But I'm going to have a go with those this year. And I've also, obviously, I've got sweet peas and zinnias on the list, and they are both star plants. And then the new one that I'm going to try this year is the sunflowers, the Pro Cut series. So I didn't actually do sunflowers in 25. I had some by accident from a sewing in, oh, excuse me a second. I had some by accident from a sewing that I had done in 2024 when I was messing around with the trial beds, and some of them self-seeded last year, and they were incredible. They didn't need staking or anything. They were just like the most enormous things I've ever seen. However, they were just a little bit too ordinary for me, and so I think the Pro Cut line is going to be a much better option for me. They just look absolutely stunning. So that's the selection of all the annuals that I've got going on. And one of the websites that I've been using this afternoon to help out with all of this planning is from johnnyseeds.com. I've put the link in the show notes. And they're an American supplier of seeds, but what they are really good at is supplying tools for growers to work out all sorts of planting dates, seed quantities and yields, all sorts of stuff. They do a range of succession planting spreadsheets on their website, all sorts of charts, basically everything that you can possibly think of, you can download from their website for free. And then you can mess around with the spreadsheets yourself. And some of these spreadsheets, I've got one up on here actually. It's one of these very, very clever ones with all the formulas already inputted in the system. So I'm looking at the target harvest date calculator one at the moment. So you would input the date that you actually want to harvest a particular crop on, and you'd put the crop name and the number of days it takes to get to maturity, which will be given on the seed packet. And if not, you can find it on Johnny's website. And then the spreadsheet will actually calculate the date that you need to sow it, which is very clever. And it means that we don't have to reinvent the wheel because some kind person has done it and then given it away for free. So that is incredible. And I don't mean me, I mean the Johnny's Seed website. But there are also a range of other spreadsheets, and there's also a very clever gadget on their website. I cannot remember which it is now, but it's one that you actually input just your last frost date, and it will go off and do loads of other calculations as well. Now, my harvest dates are going to be based on the weddings that I know about already, that my wedding and event florist has told me about, and also some markets that I want to go to, and also the conditions I have, which is no polytunnels. And it's possible to put all of this data into these different calculators, and you just get the answer, which is great. What it doesn't factor in is things like weather and pest pressures and anything else that causes a delay. So any more water shortages or any issues like that. So it's not going to be, as nothing ever is with cut flowers or gardening, it's not going to be set in stone. It's very much a guide, but it's a very useful guide without me having to go and do all of those calculations individually. So I do recommend you have a go at that. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice this evening. It's also, the other tricky factor is working out last frost dates. Now, I thought that in this day and age, there must be a place on the internet where you can just find the last frost date for your area. And I have been looking for this information because, like an idiot, I have not been writing it down over the last 10 years of my life, which I should do. So if you don't already collect that data, maybe join me in collecting that data this year so that you have it for your own plot rather than having to try and find it retrospectively off the internet. And so I couldn't find it. I know there's loads of data on the Met Office's website, and there are also all these weather stations around the UK, so you can actually get data from local weather stations. But the tricky bit about that is that the temperature is not taken at actually ground level. It's normally like a meter or a meter and a half, 2 meters off the ground. So air temperature, very different, obviously, from ground temperature. So I think I definitely need to start collecting that data for the future, but it really doesn't help very much for the past. And what's always been like the perceived wisdom down here where I am in south of England is that really you have to be sort of on a state of high alert, for frost until the end of May to be on the safe side. And actually, with all of this climate change, and just whether you believe in climate change or not, the fact is that weather is changing, and we really don't have frosts at the end of May anymore. So particularly last year was a case in point. I did hold back on planting a lot of stuff, not just because there wasn't any water and I couldn't support things on the plot, but also this sort of concern about the frost date and would everything be wiped out. And it was really silly because, last year we had heat waves all summer and it wasn't remotely, it wasn't remotely an issue. So I think the answer is just to try and do some research and find out when your last frost of the spring is, and then track back 6 to 8 weeks before that when you actually start sowing. But I'm going to be a little bit more, I think, adventurous this year and make some provision to just cover things if I need to and just get them into the ground a lot faster than I did last year, because I want them to be ready as soon as possible. I mean, wedding season really kicks off, I think, in May, and I need to be ready for that. Because the other thing that I learned from doing this spreadsheet this afternoon is that I really need to up the volumes of what I'm growing. I thought to myself that, I've got hundreds of seeds here and I've got hundreds here and hundreds here, and it's all going to amount to this, that, and the other. And when you actually punch all of the numbers in and do a rough estimation of pricing, and it's very rough at this point because it's not taking into account cost of production at all, it's just a really rough estimate, you realize that there's not enough money being made. So I really need to go back and assess that. So it's very interesting writing all of this stuff down on spreadsheets. I know lots of people excuse me, don't do it at all, but for me, being a new person, it's so useful to really look at the cold hard numbers and say, well, if I grow this and I sell it for that price, I'm going to make this much revenue. And then you're like, oh, well, that's nowhere near enough revenue for what I want to make, what I really need to make from the plot. So that is very helpful for me to actually see about increasing volume levels in different places. It's not just about squeezing the cost of production down. If the price per stem is not high enough to start with, or I don't have the volume to start with, I'm just sort of tinkering around on the edges. So plenty to be getting on with, as you can see, and that's before I actually even do the actual crop plans for each of the annuals. So that's going to be something to look forward to in a future episode. Speaking of which, I will be back on Friday as normal, and I will be carrying on with my new plant profile series, which I so enjoyed doing, and I had some very nice feedback from some listeners about how much they enjoyed that, which is a great sign. I'm not going to spoil the surprise of which one I have picked for Friday. Spoiler alert, I haven't picked one yet. I will be working that out nearer the time. But I have a great long list of ones to cover, and hopefully you will find them interesting. So I hope you have a better week. We are due another whole day of horrific rain on Thursday, which would be a good opportunity to get back on the spreadsheets and do a bit more work. So I hope you have a great week wherever you are. And if you're in Australia, I know it's pretty hot out there at the moment. So I have to say I'm very, very envious. I wish you all the very best. Please come back and join me on Friday for the next episode, and I will catch up with you then.